Today I'm going to talk about San Pedro, which is a cactus. It's similar to peyote and it contains mescaline, which is a hallucinogenic drug. I consider peyote, San Pedro, ayahuasca, magic mushrooms all to be plant medicine as opposed to drugs, which is why I embarked on this journey to be able to discover some things about myself and try and figure out the best way for me to go about life and to figure out a few things that I wasn't quite sure on about myself. So I decided to do San Pedro the week before my ayahuasca ceremony. I called up the retreat center and I asked if it was okay to do this because I didn't want it to interfere with the ayahuasca as I was on a very strict diet. And they said that it was okay for me to do this. The reason why I chose to do San Pedro before is because it's considered the grandfather of plant medicine, which means that it's a little bit gentler on your mind and on how you feel. And it's not made to induce vomiting and like traumatic experiences and memories to like flood back, but it's a lot softer, like it gives you a big hug, whereas ayahuasca is known as like the mother, you know, she's hard, she will get right into it and like tear you apart, just like mums do. I was in Cusco looking around trying to figure out where to do San Pedro. Anyone that's been there knows that it is quite a big city on a high altitude, so you have a little bit of altitude sickness. You know, you don't want to walk too far because it does exhaust your body. I found a poster of a guy called Sampi, who is a shaman for San Pedro. So I made a friend with somebody who lived in Cusco, and he and I decided it would be fun to do it together because I was a bit nervous about going and taking my first ever psychedelic with nobody that I knew, with just a lone person who has a poster up in a shop which could have been anybody. So me and him decide to go together. We call up this guy, Sampi, and he says, yeah, please come and meet me tomorrow. I'm in the town Pisac, which was about a 35-minute ride away in a taxi. And he said to me, I'll be waiting on the bridge in Pisac for you at 10 a.m. tomorrow. So we're like, okay, like no contact number for him, no nothing, just like the home phone that we had used to contact him, and that was it. That was the last we knew. We knew he was an older guy, so technology wasn't his forte. And we woke up, we got ready, we jumped in a taxi and we got to Pisac and started walking across the main bridge there, and lo and behold, like something out of a movie, this guy who's cloaked up in all these elaborate designs in his like dress sense was very wizard-like. And to top it off, he was like smoking, so he had this big billow of smoke like come out from where he was walking. And he looked like this crazy wizard who kind of took us aback a bit because of, you know, he looked a little crazy. So Sampi comes and greets us and he says, hey guys, like, you know, I'm going to take you off into the woods and we're gonna do this, you know, it's gonna be somewhere chill, remote, that you feel comfortable. So we jump in a tuk-tuk which barely fits the three of us, so we end up going about 5-10 minutes out of the town and jump out the tuk-tuk and go for a walk up next to some houses and things, and we find this cute little opening where we were able to sit down. And Sampi sits there and talks to us a little bit about it. My friend speaks fluent Spanish, I don't, so he was translating as best he could. And there was like this beautiful cliff in front of me. We were sat in a grassed area. There was a house not too far behind, but far enough to think that we won't be disturbed. So we sit down and Sampi pulls out 2-liter bottles of this brown sludge. So we're like, okay, let's give this a go. He shakes it up and puts it in this red cup for us to drink, kind of like, you know, a high school American party with red cups. And he pours it out, and as he's pouring it, it's like this thick, clumpy, like, I don't know, gel. And he offers it to us and we drink it. And as you're drinking it, you feel the chunks of cactus that weren't quite blended, and it was pretty disgusting actually. So we drink half a cup of this, and after about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, he starts to ask, are you feeling anything yet? Have you got any emotions coming up, or are you seeing anything? And I was like, no, I'm good, nothing's happening, and the same with my friend. So he offers us another round. So we drink that, and of course our like body starts to digest it, and we start to feel a bit sick. I felt a lot more sick than my friend. And one thing I noticed was he talked a lot. And he was telling lots of stories about his life and him, which was great, but I think I needed time to relax and allow this to enter my system, and for me to be able to just kind of lay back and go with it. So I think he distracted me a lot from allowing myself to start to trip. But having never tripped before, I didn't know that this was kind of what I needed, and I haven't learned that until recently, which is a whole year later, which I will discuss and tell you about my more intense trips as this channel goes on. So I lay back eventually and kind of learn to switch off and ignore the chatter, and the clouds start to breathe a little bit, and I looked at the cliff in front of me, and all the green that was coming down the cliff started to morph into skulls. So I ended up being able to see these Incan ruins that were covered in skulls in front of me, and I was a bit like confused, because I'm like, does skulls mean that I'm gonna die? Is this a bad omen? Am I looking at something and making it up in my head because I want to experience this? Like, what is this? And the more I looked at the clouds, the more like super high definition they got. I felt like I could see each individual droplet in each cloud, and I could watch it dance with each other and do its own thing, and it was crazy. But it wasn't too insane, you know, my emotions weren't running super high. I wasn't getting crazy visuals. I wasn't feeling like there was another presence around. There wasn't, you know, crazy things happening. I wasn't getting chased by the devil. So all in all, it was okay, but just as I felt it started to really hit was a lot later in the afternoon, after dehydration and hunger had set in. And Sampi was like, okay guys, like it's time to go. We're gonna head back to my house. We'll make you a cup of tea, you know, and then you can be on your way. Which I thought was a bit strange. And we go back to his house and meet his wife with his baby. Bear in mind he's about 75 and his wife, I think, was 29. And their child was a bit spiritual, like, you know, they were definitely erring on the spiritual side with him, as you can imagine. And it was a very interesting dynamic, especially when you are half seeing things that you don't know if you're really seeing them. So after about an hour in the house and we've had a cup of tea, we decided that it was probably time to head back to Cuzco. I was getting pretty hungry, my friend was pretty hungry. We needed to catch the local bus back because we didn't want to catch another taxi, and we decided to leave. So Sampi gave us these little bags that had dehydrated San Pedro in them. You know, we put them in our backpack and off we went to find the bus station to get back. And bear in mind, I am still very much kind of not in my head. In terms of looking both ways before I cross the street. But we make it to a bus and we finally get on, and this bus is, as you can imagine, a traditional Peruvian bus in the Sacred Valley with people everywhere, no spare seats, children, like chickens, everything you can imagine. And I found a seat and I sat down in the corner and literally was squished up like this. And I kind of had my head like in my hands, and there was a woman sat next to me with her 2 children. One of them was on her lap, and for some reason the child did not take a liking to me. She was about 3 or 2 years old. And she kept looking at me and pulling mean faces and being really mean, and like I was like smiling, you know, trying to like show that I'm okay, and she was like, she wasn't having any of it. And she kept saying things in Spanish that I could pick up on because I had learned a little bit by this point, and she did not like me, which was interesting. Anyway, we got back to the hotel rooms, and I ended up getting the worst headache because I hadn't drank any water. I hadn't eaten anything except for maybe an apple or something. and this headache got so bad. Like I took ibuprofen. So all in all, I got mild visuals. Nothing too crazy except from a lot of weird stories from Sampi about all the weird things, like these really weird things. My next video, I'm going to talk about ayahuasca, my first ceremony, and what happened. Thank you for watching this video, and check back in a few days and hopefully I will have uploaded the next video, and I can't wait to continue to tell you the stories of my travels.